I'm Teresa, welcome to my channel. Thank you for joining me here today, and a big thanks to all of you that watched last week's video where I was making texture plates for the gel plate. It turned out to be a super popular video and I was really encouraged and inspired by all the comments, lots of comments and lots of suggestions in those comments of items that you use to create texture and pattern on your gel plate, and that prompted me to create this video this week where I'm going to create 6 more texture plates using a couple of my own ideas and a couple of ideas that were mentioned in the comments last time. So big thanks to all of you that took the time to leave a comment. And if you are one of the ones that suggested something I've used today, well, an extra big thank you to you, because it is a really nice community where we can all share ideas. And I never claim anything to be my own personal idea. You know, we're all learning from each other all of the time. But I'm quite privileged to be in a position where I can share to a wide audience of people. So I am very grateful for people that make suggestions for things that I could try myself. And if I'm then able to bring that to a wider audience, then that makes me feel so much better. So this week, as I say, I'm going to be creating 6 more printed designs from texture plates that I've created. All easy, all items that you should have lying around. Most of you will have most of these, if not all of these, lying around. So I'm going to get set up with my materials so that I can show you what we need and how quick and easy it is to create some of these great texture plates. All of the plates that I'm making today are going to be created in the way that I did last week. I've cut a 6-inch square of really good stiff heavy duty card just to create a solid base that's going to make these plates reusable. And I have obviously a selection of different things to create texture. I'm going to be using mostly a hot glue gun for gluing things today. I've got some more bulky items, so hot glue gun, but a good strong PVA glue like I've used previously would be fine. And really, if you haven't seen last week's video, go and take a look at it. But all of these plates are going to be created in much the same way as I did then. The printing is going to be done on my 6-inch square gel printing plate, which is this one here. And that's why I've decided to create 6-inch square texture plates, just so they're a perfect fit for my plate. I'm going to be printing with DecoArt Americana acrylics, and I'll run through the colours I'm using as I come to do the prints later on in the video. So the first plate that I'm going to make is one using Lego. Now this was one of the comments, one of the suggestions in the comments on the previous video, and I thought it was a really good idea that was worth trying. I've got a box of Lego from when my children were little, and I've been and, you know, grabbed a few pieces. The only thing I've beared in mind as I was choosing them is that they were all the same depth. I've chosen these sort of standard brick thickness, not the thin ones, so that I'm going to have an even surface for creating a print. But I'm going to attach them with a hot glue gun, some of them the wrong way round, some of them the right way round. Just to create a pattern. I don't have enough bricks here to completely cover, you know, solidly without any gaps. I just grabbed a few, so I'm going to have them spaced out on my plate, but they should create a good and interesting background. So I'm going to begin by laying them out in a design that I'm happy with, and then I'll start gluing them in place. And here's my finished texture plate. Quite happy with that. The balance of the design. We say we've got some Legos the right way up, some the wrong way up. Hopefully we're going to get a nice pattern from that when we come to print with it. Next one up is going to be using some pasta. Again, this was a suggestion in the comments. I haven't used pasta since I was at primary school in my crafting, so I'm interested to see what sort of texture I get from these pasta twists that I've got. I will just sort of one word of warning, pasta is obviously a foodstuff. It is dried, and so as such should, you know, be able to be used for a long time, but do keep an eye on it. Do check it if you come to use it at some point in the future. Make sure that no moisture or anything has got to it that's causing any mould or anything to grow. Don't leave it somewhere where it might attract some sort of bugs or something, you know. Just use your common sense really, but I'm thinking, you know, once I've finished using it and any paint's dry, I'll just stick it in a Ziploc bag in my craft room and it should be absolutely fine. But again, this can be applied in all sorts of ways. I'm thinking of maybe going for a sort of a basket weave type design, because I'm thinking these twirls might work quite well with that. So once again, got my hot glue gun here. I'm going to go ahead and glue these to the surface of my 6-inch square board. And here we have texture plate number 2. Looking forward to seeing what design that creates. Really interesting to see how much of this spiral effect that we can create on our gel plate. Now for our third texture plate, I'm going to be using some lace. Now I've used pieces of lace before now, just laid them down. But by creating a sort of a reusable texture plate, it's just a lot easier really to sort of store them and find them and see at a glance really what sort of design you can create. Now I'm thinking I'm going to use this leftover piece of lace tablecloth. I did have a few options, however. I mean, I have some pieces of wide lace here, sort of crocheted woven lace. Could have laid some of those on to a piece of card and created a design. I have this sort of spider's web design fabric that I had from a Halloween section in a craft store that I've used before now just as it is, but that attached onto a board would create a really nice texture plate. I've also got these samples of broderie anglaise fabric, which again with the embroidery and the cutouts would create some really sort of interesting textures and designs, and I probably will use these in the future to create some nice texture plates. But as I say, for now I'm hoping that this sort of offcut of lace, this last remnant, is pretty much big enough to cover my piece of card. It's close enough that I'm going to be happy with it. And I think the simplest way for me to attach this is to try and staple it. Now I'm not entirely sure whether my staples will go through the cardboard backing because it's very, very thick, but I'm thinking it's going to be easier than trying to glue it down. So I'm going to give it a whirl, see what happens and take it from there really. Yep, they seem to go through absolutely fine. This stapler, for anyone who's interested, is the Tim Holtz Tiny Attacher. It has really small size staples, but I do like it for various sort of craft projects. It's nice, it's good sturdy sort of metal bodied stapler. Now I'm going to add just a little bit of tape around the back. That'll just protect me from catching myself on any of these little bits of the back of the staples and just tidy it up. So that's just some washi tape on the back, just tidies it up and saves me from catching myself on any sharp edges. But hopefully that's going to create a really pretty design on our gel plate. Next up, I'm going to use some corrugated card. Now I've used pieces of card where the corrugations are actually exposed anyway. I've used that before. This is just a box, had a set of scales in it, I believe. And I'm hoping that just by spritzing lightly with a bit of water, I should be able to remove this inner paper layer to reveal the corrugations inside. Now I don't mind if it leaves some bits of paper because that's going to add to the texture rather than it just being plain stripes. but the water does help it just lift off a little bit. So I'm going to leave it like that with a little bit of the corrugation still covered over, just because I like the sort of distressed look that that gives you. Now that you could conceivably just leave as it is, but now that we've sort of removed one of the layers, it's a little bit more flimsy. So I'm still going to go ahead and glue it onto one of my baseboards. Just going to use some of the PVA bookbinding glue that I used last week. Just because it was a nice strong glue, it dries quick enough, and it's in this pot that I can easily get in a spreader and just scoop some out. So adding that just gives it a little bit more weight, gives it some more sort of structure, and hopefully then that'll last us a little bit longer. So I'm going to pop that aside and let that dry. Next up, I'm going to go rummaging through my button box. Now, I know a lot of you, a lot of families have a tin full of spare buttons. Quite often it's been added to over the generations. Some of the buttons are going to be reused, some are probably never going to get used. So why not take advantage of the fact that there's sort of different sizes and designs in there and use them to create an interesting texture plate for your gel plate. The only thing to watch, again, similar to with the Lego, is try and choose buttons that are all of a similar sort of depth. I mean, a lot of them are, but in here I do have the odd one or two that are very, very chunky. And if I'd got a very chunky button next to a much thinner button, I'm not going to get that much contact on the gel plate. So I'm going to pull out a whole sort of selection and choose ones that all look of a similar sort of height. Doesn't have to be exact, because we can give it a little bit of a press down. But I think that's the way to sort of think, that you, in as much as you should get a better impression from more of the buttons. But as you can see, there's lots of different ones. I've got some that have a sort of a border around the outside. If I popped this way up, it would create this ring effect. If I put it this way up, I should be able to get the effect of the two holes in there. So that's something to bear in mind as I'm placing them down on my board. I've got some like different shaped buttons. Now, if you have buttons like this that have a little shank on the back, just take some wire cutters and cut the shank off if you want to use it, and then they will lie flat onto your piece of card that you're attaching them to. So I'm going to have a rummage through, choose a load, and in the same way as I did with the Legos, I'm going to arrange them on my board before I actually glue them in place with the hot glue gun, so that I'm happy with the design. Once I've got them where I want them, I'll then go ahead and glue them all down. And here's my finished button texture plate. Really excited again to see what I get. I do like this sort of unexpected nature of gel printing, but looking at this, I'm hoping to get some circles, some rings, some patterns where I can see the holes. We'll look and see what we get, but hopefully that's going to be interesting background texture for our prints again. And finally, the last thing that I'm going to use, rather than actually creating a plate and putting it onto a background, one of the suggestions in the comments was to look at the backs of ceramic tiles. And I've got this one here lying around. This is just a white 6-inch bathroom tile. Now, it does have some writing in the back, but that's something that if I did want to use this as a background design, I could cover that over. I could collage or put a sticker or put a die cut or something. But I'm interested to see what sort of pattern I get from this honeycomb design. So I'm going to have a go with that, and that's going to be the last of the texture plates that I use today. I was going to create one using a pattern using hot glue, but because I've used so much hot glue sticking all my various embellishments down, I'm down to my last stick, which I don't think is enough. So I'll save that for another video on another day. So right now I'm going to get set up with my paint and my plate, and I'll be back to show you how the plates that we've created print. So, as I said at the beginning, this is my 6 by 6 inch gel press gel printing plate. That's the one I'm using today. I've got my speedball brayer here. Any brayer will do. And I'm using the DecoArt Americana paints. Now I'm using the exact same selection of paints, except for I've switched out the Pebble Brown, which I wasn't impressed with, for this True Blue. So I've got True Blue, Razzleberry, Bright Salmon, Cadmium Yellow, Desert Turquoise, Sour Apple, Lavender, and Carousel Pink. So just some nice bright colours, and I can use 2 contrasting colours to create a 2-layer print, which will just show off the design to its best advantage to you, just so we can see what we've got really. But as I said in the previous video, you can create multi-layer prints if you want, but today's all about creating the plates, and the simplest way just to show off those designs is with a 2-layer print. I've also got a bit of scrap paper at the side for just rolling off any excess paint that's on my brayer in between layers. I've got some water in a spray bottle and some paper towel for cleaning off my plate. But really, I'm just going to go ahead and start by applying 2 colours of paint. So a first colour for a plain first layer, and then a contrasting colour for a patterned layer on top. So this is the cadmium yellow. Roll that over the plate. I'm going to take, this is just some sketchbook paper, as in the last video, just create a solid base print. Now I was asked why didn't I do a 2-layer print and put the texture on first and then a solid colour on second and pull it all in one go. You can do that, but you do have to allow the first layer of paint to dry first. And just for speed, I'm doing my solid base first and then my texture afterwards. I don't have to wait for anything to dry on the plate. So I'm going to be using the Lego plate first. So I've got this here, and as a contrast to that yellow, let's use the razzleberry. Then apply a nice thin even coating of that to the plate. Take our texture plate, just press it down evenly to lift some of that off and create a pattern, and do a second layer print. And that's really fun, really happy with that. Great background. If you were creating cards and you wanted something, especially for, I'm not going to be sexist here, but for boys, people do struggle for cards, for boys, young boys, that would be a perfect background. Really like that. Really would be interested to see if I'd got twice as many Lego bricks, that, you know, if I had them all squished up next to each other to get a denser pattern. But that I'm really, really happy with. Almost makes me think of sort of like a Pac-Man computer game, that type of thing. So great design there, and really happy with that suggestion of using Lego bricks. So if that was you that suggested it, thank you very much. I'm just going to give a quick wipe over with some water and a paper towel, just in case there is any traces of colour left on my plate. I'm going to move on to the second plate that we made, which was the one with the pasta twists.
Never understood a word they said. Kept running in the woods alone instead. Somewhere, somehow, I guess I lost it all. Try to keep it up and standing tall. Why don't you stay I could really use a friend. Stay, please stay, 'cause my heart really needs a mend. Somewhere, somehow, I guess I lost it all. Stay, stay here with me. I'm trying to make it up for my mistakes, but everywhere I turn, some hearts will break. Something, someone will end up getting hurt again. There's no need to play pretend. Why don't you stay, stay, 'cause I could really use a friend. Stay, please stay, 'cause my heart really needs a mend. Somewhere, somehow, I guess I lost it all. Stay, stay here with me. You used to say that I was great, but I made too many mistakes. Your heart will break because of me, because of me. But I just want, yeah, I just want, yeah, I just want you to stay. Why don't you stay, oh stay, 'cause I could really use a friend. Why don't you stay, please stay, 'cause my heart really needs a mend. Somewhere, somehow, I guess I lost it all. Stay, stay here with me. Why don't you stay, oh stay, 'cause I could really use a friend. Stay, please stay, 'cause my heart really needs a mend. Somewhere, somehow.
So I'm going to clear these out of the way. I'll come back for a final recap of the prints that we've done today, and then that'll be the end of it. So this is the roundup of what we've created today. First up was our Lego plate here that created this really fun design. I love it, absolutely love it, and would definitely use this as a background for a greetings card. Next up was our pasta. I'd got these pasta twirls, and I arranged them to create this basket weave effect, and really like that. It looks like one of those woven seagrass stool seats. Very, very nice, and a good sort of crisp image. So again, great fun. Look forward to experimenting with different shapes. Then I had my lace tablecloth, my lace fabric, and created this really pretty image here. It picked up all the stitching detail, really, really nice feminine design. Again, lots of uses for that in card making and sort of artist trading cards, things like that would make a really pretty background. Then we had our distressed corrugated cardboard. Great grungy background, really nice bold design, especially with this contrast with the blue and the yellow. Again, great background with lots of applications that you could use that in. And corrugated cardboard, the easiest thing to get a hold of. Everybody's ordering online, you know, things come in boxes. Just rip up a bit of cardboard and create your own fun designs. Then I used some of my buttons from my old button tin and created this unique design here. Again, totally different from all of the others. Be great for creative card making backgrounds, you know, really, really nice idea with the buttons. You could arrange the buttons in a shape. You could put them in a circle shape or something like that. Lots of different ideas. Or indeed, if you just wanted to pick one or two buttons, maybe you haven't got many buttons, maybe glue one on the end of a cork and use it as an individual stamp rather than putting lots of them on a texture plate. Another great way of using what you've got. Finally, this ceramic tile, this glazed ceramic tile that I'd got lying around, created this really crisp design, and ignoring the fact that there's the words in the middle that I can disguise. I love the honeycomb design. It's created a really crisp and clear print. So as with last week's video, I really hope that you enjoyed this one. I hope it's inspired you to have a look at what you've got lying around that you can use to create great fun patterning on your gel plate. Please do leave a thumbs up as before if you enjoyed the video, and please leave a comment. Any more suggestions? Are there ideas that you've used that you really like? You know, I love to be as inspired by all of you that watch as you are from watching me. So if I get enough great ideas and suggestions to create another video along those lines, I will definitely do that. So if you've got some great secrets that you're willing to share, please feel free to leave a comment below. But as always, thanks for watching. I shall see you again soon. Bye.
I never understood a word they said. Kept running in the woods alone instead. Somewhere, somehow, I guess I lost it all. Try to keep it up and standing tall. Why don't you say